sentences in French when I get on.
Tu parles français?
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pavel Krastev, DDS from New Hyde Park, New York. And we join you today with the Hex Commission. We have 6 commissioners that will be doing the show together. And we have a great action-packed show for you. Before we get rolling, I'd like to welcome our audience on behalf of the Global Summit Organization, which is the mothership, and of course, Dr. Kiano Shah and myself, and the fellow commissioners we have on this panel. We're very excited to be here with you. We do understand that some of you are colleagues in all professions who are very experienced and who've been around the block, and perhaps you may not learn too much. But we also encourage the younger ones to watch and pick little things up here and there, because the younger generation, we hope to guide in a positive direction, both in their practices and in their business aspects of their practices. So that's our goal. And the Hex Commission was established, we started it last year, and we did it a little different. And we make little modifications here and there to make it more entertaining and more pleasant for everyone. So today we have 6, and we'll be addressing different topics. At the end, we'll perhaps sit down and have a little roundtable discussion and take it from there. I also have asked each commissioner to sort of introduce themselves when they start, and tell us and the audience a little bit about who they are, what they do, anything they essentially want to share with us. And then they'll present us with some of the things that we feel are important to be brought up, to be discussed, because after all, it will enhance your practices in your lives. So the way I see healthcare is in medicine, in dentistry, and all aspects, it's really an art. And why is it an art? Well, we go to school, we are trained, we use books, we use typodons, we use all kinds of training methods to train us. And that's great, and we graduate. And we have a set of skill set, if you will, that now you have to take and you have to grow from it. So it becomes an art in the sense that now you have to apply everything that you've learned, and you have to apply it not to models, but to living human beings. And living human beings have emotions, they have sensory fibers and neurons, and they feel pain. So the game changes. So you graduate, and now you are starting a different area of your lives, and it pays in great dividends if you can start doing things that you enjoy, that you love, and focus and grow within yourself, and do what will give you a pleasant experience going to work every day. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But having said that, I'd like to invite Dr. Gerald Morris, a good friend of mine, and he's a veteran on the show. Dr. Jerry, welcome. I'm sure you will tell our audience a bit about yourself. But I'm very excited because Dr. Morris will be discussing online reviews. Now, online reviews are, I believe, I don't want to say new to some of us old-timers, and I consider myself an old-timer. We're adapting to this new thing, which is rather not so new anymore, but it wasn't done 30 years ago. It wasn't done 40 years ago. So online reviews can have very beneficial aspects to your practice, and also they can have detrimental effects. The problem, and the reason why I think it's so important to discuss online reviews, is because many of them are legit and many of them can be illegit. So as a community in healthcare, how do we protect ourselves from illegit reviews that can be detrimental? And what I wanted to bring up also for discussion is the way I see illegit reviews is it's sort of defamation of character. If let's say a patient or a friend or someone didn't pay their bill in your office and they want to go out and hammer you down, well, they can call their grandmothers and their aunts and uncles and their cousins, and they can say, listen, see this dentist or doctor, we want you to go and, trash their reputation. Now, how are we protected from something like this? I think this is something that we all need to discuss, and we all have to keep discussing until we feel that it's a fair game. So Dr. Morris, please, welcome once again, and glad to have you.
It's great to be here, Dr. Krastev, and to the fellow commissioners here. Good to see you all. Hopefully the summer isn't too hot compared to where I am. I am a primary care physician practicing in Tucson, Arizona. We hit some highs this weekend. I think today a high of 110 degrees. So that's why I'm staying indoors. So I've been in Tucson for about a decade. My wife and I, we co-own 2 practices now. So we have a concierge medical practice, and then we have a second arm, which is our medical aesthetics practice, which is run primarily by my wife. So for 2 of us, online reviews are pretty important because of the kinds of practices that we have. So I know, to Dr. Krastev's point, is I would even say up until maybe 15 years ago, online reviews weren't that heavily regarded, because if you're a good practitioner, it was word of mouth and people loved you and you did well. But now, quite frequently, you find people coming into your practice, whether you're a medical practitioner, dentist, you run your own pharmacy, you're an optometrist, chiropractic, anything, any of those, or even a PhD, you find people who will look you up before they even come and talk to you or see what you're about. And based on what's out there, you have to really be careful how you navigate these waters, because the landscape of the online community is changing all the time. And one bad review could potentially wreck your practice. And I want to go one step further and say how you respond to a bad review has the ability to wreck your practice. So it's not only having them, but your response to them. So what I have done, I've put together a small slide presentation that I'll just run through real quick so that you guys can get some salient points on how to deal with reviews, whether they're positive or negative, and be able to make a better go of it as you progress and as you grow your practice in this new ever-changing online landscape. So I'll share my screen, if that's okay.
Absolutely, please.
Alrighty, so to get started. So let's talk about the 10 best practices for responding to online reviews, whether they are good or bad. All right, so when you're responding to the reviews, it shows that you have great customer service, and you want to make sure that every single one that comes in, you handle them one by one and kind of with a personal touch. Okay, it helps your customers get to know, who you are, and also it kind of builds your brand online too. So these are a couple of things that you definitely want to make sure you keep track of when you are tackling online reviews as they come in to you about your practice. So how do you respond online? You got to be really, really careful. So I got 10 points for everyone today to kind of take some time, jot some notes, and kind of see exactly if you've been doing these, kudos. If you haven't been doing them, build them into the way your practice or whoever you have managing your online presence, on your behalf, obviously, tackle these reviews as they come in. So don't just focus on the negative. So you want to also respond to the good ones too. So most of us, when a good review comes in, the idea is, oh, they love us, so we don't have to do anything. That's not the case. You also want to acknowledge those people who took the time to go online and to say something positive about you, because that's also a key way in building your online tribe. People who will come to your defense, so to speak, if someone puts up a negative review about you. So it's always key to kind of keep those people, quote unquote, happy as well, and by acknowledging the fact that they took the time to give you a thumbs up for good work that you did. You want to express gratitude. You want to be thankful in your reviews. Don't be robotic, but you want to kind of make sure you approach each one in its own way and say, hey, you know what? Thank you for taking the time out. Because it does take time to go online and type out some reviews. I'm sure most of us here on the panel and those of us watching, you've spent some time online reviewing one product or service or another at one point in time in the last few years. So it is key to get that touch point back and let your clients know that, hey, I see you, I acknowledge you, thank you. And that's for the good and the bad reviews. So you definitely want to make sure you tackle them both. You want to look for specific details. Okay, so sometimes review will come in, and some reviewers can be quite specific on what exactly upset them, especially if it's a negative review. Do your research, look and see exactly where this happened, if it was one of your locations, if you have multiple locations, and kind of get back to the customer and to really get more information as to what happened. And there are different ways you can reach out to the customer. If it's one of your frequent customers that all of a sudden has had a bad experience, that's one person you definitely want to tap into quickly and get to and say, hey, what happened? Truly apologize for you having that experience at our place. How can I make it better? Or give me more details as to the way in which I can make this better for you. You never want to get into a fight online. Never want to get into an argument, and it's easy to get sucked in, because let's face it, a review, like Dr. Krastev said, can sometimes feel like a personal attack. It can sometimes feel like, oh, this person is, and even if in your heart of hearts you did your best, you never want to approach it from a heavily defensive standpoint. You want to start off by acknowledging and, yes, apologizing for whatever the perceived negative experience was, if it's a negative review, and then kind of tackle it that way. And that way you kind of break down the reviewer's defenses, because a lot of times it's miscommunication and misunderstanding. And what they perceive as, oh, I can't believe you did that. Actually, when you explain, oh, they have a better idea as to why. And you can most times get those reviews removed without even asking. Every single complaint is important. Every single one. Even if you think it's trivial, it's important to the person who put it out online. And I guarantee you there's someone out there who reads it and is thinking, oh, I can't believe that happened there, and may not be one to come to your practice or your establishment, to take part in your services. So you want to make sure you evaluate every single complaint that comes in and go through it and see how you can best make amends if that's the case. Never forget your audience. I mean, we all are online. We all have online presences now for our businesses, whether it's, and also for personal, and everyone's watching, So how you respond, everyone is watching. So you want to make sure your response is one that is kind, obviously, and that is clear and to the point. Like I said before, no arguing. You want to make sure that the person is validated and feels that you do have their best interest at heart in getting to the root of the matter at hand. Personal yet professional, very important. If it's someone who you can use the first name, and you can, if they put their first name in their review in the beginning, you can say, hey, thanks Todd for the good review, or thanks Todd for the thumbs up, whoever it is, and that's always good, because once again, for that person doing the review, having you come back with that kind of breaks down the defenses a bit and lets them realize that you're actually a real person and not a robot, typing on the machine. Now, with that being said, you still want to maintain some level of professionalism in your response. So using the first name is good, but then after that, you want to make sure that you are very surgical with the way you handle the actual complaint. Like I said before, don't be a robot. Don't use the same response over and over again. People can see that. So if you get a bunch of good reviews and your response is the same, thank you for your great review, we hope to see you soon. Every single time, it negates the importance and the quality of the reviews you have. People will think and look and be like, oh, well, if he says the same thing every single time, obviously it's copy and paste. This person doesn't care about the experience that their clients are having. So it'll take a little bit of time, but it's well worth it to be able to put your own little spin and change up how you respond to the positive and the negative reviews with the verbiage you use. And of course, you want to research your reviewers. There are a few instances where someone's going to give you a bad review. And if you click on that person and you notice a trend that they give bad reviews everywhere they go, then it tells you how you should handle that particular response. For instance, if you have someone who, by just doing that, you can actually see how others have handled negative reviews from that particular client and then tailor your message differently. to get a better response. So watch out for quote unquote trolls on the internet, because let's face it, some people are just out there to hurt you. So, and they get the joy in putting negative things online. So you want to be very careful, how you respond, but it will take some research. So the moment you get a bad review, look up and see how many other reviews does this person have. And the good thing is with the search engines that we use, Google, you can see that people's reviews over the past, I think, 6 to 12 months, and you can see exactly where they've been, if it's been a similar establishment, if they've had the exact same issue with that other place, and then you can see, okay, this may be something with the client. That being said, you don't approach it from that standpoint. You still want to be one that acknowledges and tackles the issue or the concern they brought in a more favorable way. And you want to make it right. If there truly was a breakdown in communication or something with the billing of a service, you want to be careful. You want to definitely acknowledge and make it right. Now, just be careful with how you do it, because it's an online record. So try not to give too many freebies, so to speak, like, oh, we'll give you a free service, I'm sorry for that. Because then people are going to come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden have the same issue with your practice. And before you know it, it just snowballs. So you want to be very careful how you respond, and when you give quote unquote, freebies, make sure it's justified. Don't just do it to shut someone up. You want to make sure you've done your research, you figured out, okay, this was truly a breakdown for us, boom, and then you can go ahead and offer. All right. So I put together these 10, and just so that it's quick, easy. I know those watching who have businesses or personal profiles. Very important. I mean, I do these myself. In our practice, I respond to the majority of the reviews that we get online. So, and the good news is I do adhere strongly to a lot of what I put here, just to make sure that our online profile as a business is strong, and people will frequently come to us and say, oh yeah, I looked you guys up and this is why I'm here. Not because, we're board certified physicians, or we've been practicing for over a decade. No, people will look up and say, oh, I read your reviews, that's why I'm here, and that's their way of getting a little glimpse into your practice before they come actually into your practice.
That's fantastic, my dear friend. Very, very enlightening what you shared with us. And I like your approach in the sense that you're not looking to attack anyone, you're looking to make good on the negative or maybe critical review, and I love that. I think we should all attempt to handle this kind of situations in the same manner that you do. But my concern again is when people are attacking you with malice, and perhaps they may be people that are not even your patients. How is there and again, I'm not familiar with the internet community to this degree, but is there an ability to take it up with the particular site which is posting that review and explain to them what's going on, and sort of will they do anything about it? I mean, how is it handled?
So Dr. Krastev, there is a way to get negative reviews removed, but it is very tedious and very difficult, especially with some of the larger search engines, which will remain nameless. It's much, much, much more difficult to get them removed. That's why what I advocate for is building your tribe, building an online tribe of people that love what you do. That is the best way, the easiest way to quote unquote drown a negative review. Because, we, like, for instance, like a couple of years ago, we had a bad review of someone who wasn't our patient. And it was just like, now the bad thing to do would be to go online and say, we have never seen you, don't know who you are, no. Instead, we did respond positively by saying, hey, we apologize for your experience. Please give us a call and we put the number for the office manager so we can make this right. No one ever called, and then I followed up a week later to the same review, and they keep a log. And I said, hey, we haven't heard from you. We truly want to make things right. Please give us a call. No one responded. And then what happened is people saw that because it was among all the other 5 stars we have, and you have this weird. So people came back. I actually had one patient said, when they came in for the first time. Oh yeah, I read your reviews, and there was this one odd one, but obviously that person was crazy. That's literally what he said to me. I was like, oh, yeah. I saw where the people are reading it. I saw where you guys responded. And did I ever resolve? And I mean, I couldn't say yes or no. I just said, well, you know what, my online team is handling that. I'm not sure where it's at, and we hope that we do come to some resolution with the client who was upset. But the patient actually told me, yeah, that person must have been crazy, because I mean, you have all of these other reviews and this weird one out in the ether. So that's the best way I would say. You want to make sure you build your tribe, and as practitioners, I don't know about you guys, a lot of them are afraid to ask for the reviews. Go ahead and ask for it. I mean, if someone has had a good service, how you word is important. You say, well, you know what, if you loved us today, let us know how we're doing. Give us a review online.
Yeah.
If you loved or didn't love, we want to hear both sides, because for a lot of people, if there's too many positives too, then they think, this place is too good to be true. So you want to get them out there. But yeah, to your point, yes, you can get them removed. It is quite tedious, because we tried doing it through the channels that, with Google, and it never worked. We had to submit paperwork and I'm like, you know what, I'm not getting wrapped up in that. It costs too many man hours. So we left it alone and just kind of added, and more positive reviews came, and they kind of drowned it. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. That's wonderful.
No worries.
And pleasure to see you always. So now I'm going to invite Dr. Ora to partake in a moment or two. But the problem is Dr. Ora and Dr. Trong, they have a huge advantage of us with their beauty over here. So all the guys in this panel were handicapped. So you guys got to give us a break out there. So Dr. Ora is going to be discussing a very, by the way, welcome to the show, Dr. Ora. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well, Papa.
You'll be handling a very important aspect, namely marketing. And before I turn it over to you, I'd like to mention that the way I see marketing is we can do what's called internal marketing, or we can do external marketing. Practices, and that has to do with what you want to do. But ultimately, no matter what kind of marketing you do, your signature, your character, I think gold standard area you should focus on is your work and the quality of your work, because that will become your signature for many, many years to come. And what gets around now. The way I see this thing, and I'm sure Dr. Ora will clarify many of the things that I'm going to probably throw on the table. One practitioner must know their goals. So hopefully early in your career, you will evaluate, do a lot of self searching within yourselves and see what do you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing, what are you good at, what are you not good at. Now, if you're not good at something, or you feel that you should be better, there's a gazillion areas that you can look for help and to get better at a particular procedure that you feel needs some tweaking. So that's your goal. Then you have to also ask yourself, what kind of practice do you want to run? What gives you personal fulfillment? What gives you happy family life if you have a family? Do you want a large practice? Do you want a small practice? These are things that you must evaluate. And I say, I can't repeat enough how important it is to do it early in your lives, because as you get older and older, habits are formed. And if you've been doing something in a way X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden 20 years later you decide to change it, it's very difficult to reprogram your minds and your hands. So that's why I encourage the young colleagues out there, do the self-evaluation early in your careers. Now, common sense. If you ask 100 people, what do you want in life? They're going to tell you, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to have enough money to pay my bills, I want to live in a nice house, and blah, blah, blah. But all these things, they come with a price tag. And how will you accomplish them? So you can accomplish them by simply going to work and kind of just doing a job. Or you can wake up every day and say, gee, I love doing my job, because you've created a lifestyle and a practice which is essentially going to give you the happiness that you feel you want in life. So That's how I see it. So Dr. Ora, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank
Tell
you
us a
so
little
much.
bit about yourself, because I see you, you're a very, very, very famous young lady. And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pavel. Great seeing all of you guys. I always loved the medical field, and from my father's side, everybody's a doctor. But I embrace the educational field, so I've been an educator and a journalist. So I'm pretty much working with doctors to expose their businesses and probably make the difference between the PR and the marketing, which I think very many times people think they equate. I think PR, it's always when you are going to expose yourself, you are going to put yourself on a platform and you are going to tell people what an amazing doctor you are. Marketing, it's for your products, it's for your office. So it's a huge difference. And Dr. Pavel said, it's internal marketing, it's external marketing. I call it personalized marketing. I published 2 books. The very first one is called Out of the Transylvania Night, and that one was endorsed by Nadia Comaneci, by the Olympic gold medalist. And I wrote another book, which actually was just acknowledged by the famous Psychologist magazine, and it's called Conversation with the Past. And that one was acknowledged and endorsed by Anita Morjani, which is a big name in the self-help arena. She's a New York Times bestseller. So from what I've learned, by publishing my books and also creating a magazine, it's called a motivational magazine, it's called See Beyond. And then doing events for doctors, for motivational speakers. And this new platform is called See Beyond the Hill, which the hill can be literally like a physical hill, but also can be beyond all the problems, that we have on a daily basis. I would love to touch a little bit about what I call, it's the MD Connect Performance Portal Lead Tracking System. So I think no matter how many businesses you have to have this tracking system that actually is going to give you an idea, where is your exposure? Where are your patients coming from? Are they coming because of print media? Are they coming because of your radio exposure? Have you done any TV commercials or any digital or social media presence? So that digital platform pretty much is going to gather all the information that is coming from so many different funnels, right? Whenever people talk about marketing, they always talk about the PPC, okay, which is pay per click, which somehow, of course, you're going to pay and you're going to design a campaign that is going to target people in your area and in your business. So you're not just going to spend money, advertising your business to Romania when actually your business is, located in Los Angeles, right? Of course, others are talking about SEO, which is the search engine, right? So whenever I'm speaking about the SEO, I always consider, the keynote, the keyword research, the keyword strategy. And then I would say the last one, it's the content strategy, which is the most important one. And of course, when you talk about the SEO, you talk about blog writing, you're talking about interaction with your patients, you're talking about URL recommendations and social media profile, right? Which nowadays it's so important. And like Dr. Morris said, the endorsements of your patients, the ones that have been, and hopefully they had the positive experience, but also the ones who didn't come to your practice and actually they are writing, not endorsing your business, not even being there, right? And then of course it's the local directory listing where you also want to be present. Now, I would take a different approach. As I said, it's not the internal and the external marketing, it's the personalized marketing. There are so many medical offices. And so even if you're going to go and that place has been recommended to you and you've gone there and you had an amazing experience, it's like, why should I go back? what exactly it's that medical practice, besides, giving me the best medical advice, what else are they doing? Because we always remember when we were treated kindly and we had a very, very positive environment. We actually, all our needs were met. So I would say always deliver unexpected care packages. That would be my number one recommendation. So what is that? I remember 20 years ago, a very good friend of mine, she's a dentist. She started her practice. So she was a brand new name in town. She set up her dentistry practice in Orange County. And she said, how am I going to attract new patients? I came from Romania. I'm just opening up my practice. So she pretty much had a limousine. She hired a limo driver for 6 months. So what was this limo driver doing? Well, whenever she would have patients, the limo driver would go pick them up and literally bring them to her office. She was known the limo dentist, for many, many, many years, just because, she didn't tell her patients, okay, you're coming from far away. That's great. Bus 444 is going to take you to my practice. No, she said, you live very far, that's fine. We're actually going to send a limo to pick you up. So her business literally increased in the next 6 months, doubled, if not triple in a year. So that's one. Two, I always look at the days of the week. And so I would probably start what it's called Monday Munchies, right? Of course, especially when you go to the dentist and all of a sudden, you're going to eat too many sweets. But Monday Munchies is like you're offering, let's say, a cookie or a pretzel or a bags of chips, not necessarily right before your treatment, but maybe after. So now all of a sudden people, I'm like, oh my God, whenever I go to this practice on Monday, they always give me something, right? A teeny tiny bags of chips. How about if we're going to have fruity tarts Tuesday? Okay, all of a sudden now you're going to have some fruit tarts on a Tuesday. So not necessarily that I really need to go to see my dentist, but I know that I'm going to leave with a fruity tart on Tuesday. So I'm going to go for that one. How about Wine Wednesday? Okay, yes, you don't have to go there totally, under the influence, but maybe probably find a way to, with a local winery, to cross promote. So all of a sudden people are going to go and have a glass of wine and they are going to have a recommendation. You're going to give 10%, to go and see this dentist or this doctor. So now you're also, presenting your own business in this winery, but also you are giving people an incentive not to get drunk, but actually to come to your office, right? How about if we're gonna call it Tea Thursday? Right? How about, especially in the area where you live, you might be dealing with a high Asian population or maybe a Pakistani population. How about if I'm actually going to do some research and figure out what kind of teas these people drink? And so, I have friends from Iran, right? I love the rose petal teas. How about if I'm going to have friends from Morocco? Maybe I'm going to go and buy some teas from Morocco. So now all of a sudden my patients are going to come and they are actually going to find the teas that they are so familiar with in their own countries, right? And how about Flower Fridays, right? Not every Friday, but let's say you are going to have every third or 10th patient that is going to come in on a Friday is going to be given a flower. Hopefully it's going to be a woman, right? But if not, even a guy, he's going to give it to his wife. And you do this in a repetitive manner. What I've noticed, it's repetition is the mother of learning, right? The more you do the same thing, the more you're going to be remembered. And I'm going to give you a small example. I worked when I came to this country for Bel Air Hotel. Now, Bel Air Hotel was opened in 1946, and it's literally a boutique hotel. It's one of the 9 luxury hotels. It's operated by Dorchester Collection, that it's owned by Brunei Investment Agency. Before they remodeled and reopened in 2011, each and every room was designed differently. Each and every room was actually in a different color, designed by a different architect. So I would have people that would call and they would be like, I just want Grace Kelly's apartment. Well, Grace Kelly's apartment was all designed and decorated in pink. That particular room was booked out in advance, like 6 or 8 months. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have that one. Well, how about Michael Jackson's room? Michael Jackson was black and white. Everything was designed in that room black and white. So people would be stuck on numbers because of the design, the interior design of that particular room. So that's how you want to be known. You want to be known because you're memorable, because you're actually giving people services that nobody else will or has. And that's how you're going to increase your ratings. That's how you're actually going to have more positive reviews, like Dr. Morris said. And that's how pretty much people are going to give you only good reviews on Yelp. Thank you.
That's fantastic. But you really, man, you got this down to a science. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So it's a lot has to do with being unique as well. I also I'm a strong believer, and I always say this. I have a very small practice, and it took me 30 years to build it, and I'm still building it. But I love the way it's building, because for some reason I'm fortunate that my patients over the years have grown to know me for who I am and for the quality of services that we at least attempt to provide. We don't possibly always succeed. I mean, we try. Anyhow, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. Dr. Susan Trong, welcome to the show. Great to see you. And you also have a very interesting area of the professional arena, insurance and patient retention. And before I turn over the podium to you, I want to say again a couple of things regarding insurance and non-insurance and what you decide to do. So again, I urge the younger colleagues who are not perhaps well established yet or are looking to establish themselves, ask yourself again, what type of practice do you want? What will give you personal happiness? Do you want to have an insurance practice? And I said this in the beginning of the show. Or do you want to have a fee-for-service practice? Each one has benefits, pros and cons. You have to examine these things, or you can feel free to call me anytime and we can discuss it. And I'll give you my 2 cents. Not that I'm an expert or authority, but I have some experience. And if I don't know something, I usually reach out to a colleague or a friend. But so with an insurance practice, typically you will be participating with some insurances, and you will have contracts to fulfill and perhaps offer a slight discount to patients. And that's great if that's what you want to do. But at the same token, the insurance companies now start to have a little finger in what you're doing in your life and your practice and how you do it. Mm-hmm. So my philosophy is I don't participate with any insurances, although we work with insurances and patients get reimbursed. Because it's very difficult to gauge everything. Different, patients come in and they say, "Well, doc, we have the best insurance." It happens every day. I have the best insurance, doc, and and then you realize that they cover for a cleaning, for a checkup, for an exam, and then they cover $2 for everything else. So be careful. Now, the way I like to do things, it doesn't have to be the way you like to do things. I look at patients comprehensively, and I like to, in most cases, treat them comprehensively. So if you're running an insurance practice, you will be very often faced with patients coming in and saying, "Doc, I want you to stay only within the budget of what my insurance allows for time being, and I will continue when my insurance refreshes itself." Now, what happens in scenarios like that is very often you will start things and never finish them on time, and that will lead to losing teeth. In my case, because I'm a dentist, so I speak more from the dental perspective, but I'm sure our colleagues can speak from different perspectives, and it would probably be equate to a degree. Again, also you have to ask yourself, do you have the holistic philosophy of dentistry or medicine, or do you more subscribe to more the traditional approach, or are you somewhere in the middle? So once you know all these things, then you start to understand. For example, when you do a root canal, we all know that you can do a root canal, make it look beautiful on an X-ray, but it can be really, in fact, poorly instrumented and poorly cleaned inside, and but that's a whole other discussion. What I'm trying to say is you can also do the same root canal and do it with a lot of love and with a lot of passion, and make sure that everything not only looks good on the X-ray, but in fact is done to the best standard of care that we have today. So these are nuances that one really has to evaluate. And I think before I turn over the podium, let me see, because I took a lot of notes yesterday. So yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself, am I happy? And if you are happy, then keep doing what you're doing. If you feel that you are happy, but not so happy, and then you have to ask yourself, what am I doing that's making me unhappy in my practice? And then try to change it. Very often the change may be learning very small little tricks. Quite often, it takes sometimes years to learn a stupid little trick that somebody taught you that you thought you were doing it right, but you really weren't. And that little trick now changes your entire outlook on a particular procedure. So this is why I mean, you guys, the younger generation now, you have amazing tools at your disposal. For example, YouTube. You could study all you want, any topic you want, from some of the best implantologists, best endodontists. I mean, these people, fortunately, and thanks to them, they put some amazing material out there that if you want to study and focus on a particular area, you can do it for months and maybe even years sometimes. I certainly, lately I'm falling in love with dentistry again. I'm on a complete tangent with doing root canals. That's like my new passion now, root canals. Also, ceramic restorations, inlays, onlays. So what do you think I do? I go to the big gurus, I watch, I listen, I watch again. And there's some names out there that are really, so valuable to the professions. A lot to offer to us. So thanks to all these guys, and they know who they are. So Dr. Susan, please, podium is yours. Share your wisdom with us and tell us, most importantly, a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Pavel. I'm Dr. Susan Trong. I'm an optometrist, and it is so wonderful to be here and to see friends and colleagues again. So thank you. Again, I'm Dr. Susan Trong. I'm an optometrist, and I have 5 practices in the Tampa Bay area. Dr. Morris was mentioning how hot it is where he's at. We're not quite in 100 something, but we're hitting mid to high 90s. So when he mentioned that, I'm like, yeah, I'm there with you. Dr. Pavel had mentioned we're talking about insurance and patient retention. That can go hand in hand. So here is again pros and cons. I've been practicing for 22 years now, and as you grow your practice, as an optometrist, dentist, general practitioner, whatever chiropractor, whatever specialty we're in, the longer we practice, my experience, the less insurance. I'm dropping more and more plans. But here's the thing with insurance. Maybe as a newbie, okay, as a new doctor, new practitioner, maybe it is something that I've got a new practice. How am I going to get people through the door? How am I going to get them sitting in my chair? So I sign up and I contract with all these different insurance companies. Okay, again, nothing wrong with that. Not judging here, and we build up the patient base. And however, let's say you're a newbie, you're starting out. The insurance brings the patients in. Number one, it's because, hey, you're an in-network provider on my plan. Number two, convenience. There's lots to be said for location and convenience, right? But here's my philosophy of practice, which sounds like it's very similar to all of you out there, is once they're in your chair, insurance or not, they are treated as the most important. You are the celebrity, you are the star, you're the only one that matters. Okay, it's not because I'm in my head saying, you know, with your insurance, I'm going to take care of you like this, okay, get you in, get you out. You're here, it's me and you have my undivided attention. Because it is your experience that all that we've talked about, whether it's reviews, marketing, it is going to be your experience. I am providing the best in terms of that skill set, all that I've learned in school. Yes, there's a science of it, but the art of it is how I'm going to deliver it to you. Okay. And that you're going to feel, and it's genuine when we talk about reviews, is it the copy and paste, copy and paste. It is genuine. It is sincere. It is coming how I am with you, how I talk to you, how I listen to you, how I care for you. You can feel it. It is from the depth of my heart and soul. And whether insurance or not, when you feel heard, when you're sitting in there with worries, concerns, what brought you in sitting in that exam chair there, when you feel heard, and when I've taken care of you, okay, you're like, oh my God, this is the best experience. This is the best exam I've had. Insurance or not, once you leave, you're going to tell everybody and their mother. I'm going to end up taking care of your family, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, your neighbors. You're gonna share. Yes, these days with technology, reviews, the internet, but still, you know what? Maybe I'm so freaking old fashioned, but word of mouth, we still got that. And to me, that is still at the top of the list. And from there, that is how I've been building my practice. And as I shared with you, my own personal experience into less and less insurance and more private pay patients. It's just take great care of your patient. It doesn't seem so hard, right? Truly, it's not. But do it, because I'm going to tell you something. If you're fake, people are going to feel it. I mean, and when you're real and genuine and you yourself, us, the doc, the practitioner are vulnerable, okay, they're going to feel it too. So insurance or not, it's, you know, we don't need, there's no need to sit here and bash insurance, oh, the reimbursements, things and this and that. Look, if we make that choice to sign up for it, right, we deliver it, okay? And as we build it, then hey, you can start dropping it. And that comes again, how, because the bottom line is patient's experience and feeling heard, okay? Am I being heard? Are you truly, hearing is one thing, but are you really listening to me? Because listening, as we know, is a learned skill. And that goes hand in hand with patient retention. I've had my own personal experience, and probably some of you practitioner, you know, my friends and colleagues out there would agree too. I've had patients where they'll come see me because of insurance. Then I don't see them for a while, you know, whatever, 5-6 years, and then they're back. And I'm like, and I keep, you know, I keep pretty good notes, because those notes too, that's another thing when it comes to personal experience. I'm like, oh, so how's, you know, how's Spot doing? They're like, their dog, right? And oh, wow, you remember that? And I'm like, okay, well, all right, the truth is, yeah, I take pretty good notes here. And they're like, wow, that's impressive. But then again, when it comes to that whole patient retention, so whatever, 5, 6, 10 years later, I see them again. I'm like, oh, well, thank you for returning to us. You know, well, I mean, what brought you back? I mean, I see here that last year you went to so-and-so. You know, what brings you back here versus returning to where you were at last year? Well, okay, listen, Doc, I haven't seen you for years because you weren't on my plan anymore, but I've experienced elsewhere, and you know what? It just wasn't the same. So even if I have to pay out of pocket, here I am. Okay, so it's just, again, if you've got to start building the practice by taking different insurance, okay, no problem. But as you build it, then you can start dropping it. Then it gets back to, but how do I build it? Just be you. Be the best practitioner. Be the best person. It's not just not being a doctor, right? It's just not delivering our services and our products, but it's being you, the person, you know, functioning and operating from your heart here. And that comes into retention. And then you build and you build it and you build it. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, okay, my schedule is so booked out. And I'm sorry, I'm like booked out a month to whatnot. And it just seems so simple, but if it doesn't seem as simple to you, I'm here, we're here, reach out and we'll share, we can share more on a one-on-one. But that's what I have to share with you today. Thank you, Dr. Pavo, for the opportunity.
Dr. Trong, that was amazing. And I love the way you speak with such passion in your heart. And I think it's so important what you mentioned, that regardless of insurance or no insurance or what type of insurance, when you take on a patient, you have an obligation, ethical and moral, to do the right thing and do the treatment plan, whatever you're planning to do, to the best of your abilities, and not at all look at it like a discounted kind of thing, or this can't do that. I mean, at least you shouldn't. And I totally, I repeat, a small practice, I never advertised. My practice is, I'm going to say 99.9% referral based. And I just love it that way for many reasons. I get to know my patients. I get to follow their histories. I get to sometimes play devil's advocate in how I shape their dental future. And when I look at a case, I evaluate how old is the patient. I evaluate what can I accomplish? Where am I going to be in 10 years? Where am I going to be if I do this in 15 years? And I try to make an assessment that makes sense of what I will do for this particular patient. So great stuff. And thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Doctor.
now I will welcome another dear old friend. And when I say old, I don't mean chronologically old. I mean, just I've known him for a while. Dr. Alan Chung, welcome to the show. We always love to hear your esteemed comments and wisdom as well. So before I turn it over to you, I want to let the audience know that Dr. Chung will be discussing business ideas and mentoring. So he'll take the conversation a little bit into the area of how we mentor younger colleagues, how perhaps we mentor each other. And I think that's a key. And I'm going to share with you guys a personal story. So about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, I was at a course and I met Dr. Sharif Radwan. Now, Dr. Sharif Radwan and myself became very good friends, and we traveled, to many places together, and we took many courses together, and we had a ball doing it, to include Alaska. So it turns out that when I hit that part of life where I had to do my own teeth, I could have gone to a lot of colleagues, and I'm sure I would have gotten superb services done. But I said to myself, so many colleagues helped me with this procedure, with that procedure, an endodontist procedure, an endodontic procedure, rather, an implant procedure. Everyone came to my rescue. But at the end, I ended up through networking. And that's why the whole point of this story is to encourage you guys to network with the right people. Because when you make friends, these friends become friends for life, and they become also mentors. Regardless of how old you are, or how much experience you have or don't have, I believe that we all come across questions. We come across issues where we need to reach out to a friend and say, hey, Bob, what do you think about this case? Or Dr. Sharif, what do you think about that case? So in the long term, this is how you grow. And I repeat again, it's very important. The younger you start the self-evaluation, the younger you start focusing and narrowing down your love for a particular area or a few particular areas, you will just become a better clinician, and you will just have a happier life. So Dr. Allen, there's a couple of things that I'd like to ask you, but I'm going to hit you up with 3 questions that I'd like you to discuss further, and I'll just give them to you all right now. So first, I would like to know, what would you say are the most important things in a practice to survive long term, especially considering all that we've gone through over the last few years with the COVID crisis, and you have over 35 years of experience, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it.
Yes.
And please share with us what are some of the important aspects. And the other thing I'd like you to explain to us is what business and practice advice do you give to the new doctors and student doctors starting out? What should they focus on? And thirdly, where do you see healthcare going? What do you see the future?
Well, those are quite the questions there, Dr. Krastev. Thank you, and esteemed colleagues. And my friend and colleague, Dr. Mark Sena, is with supporting us today from Miami, Florida, to help answer some of these questions. I'm going to defer some of that questioning to Dr. Sena. Now, I am happy to be tell you a little bit about myself. I am coming to you live from Bienvenue, Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and bienvenue tous les docteurs, tout le monde. Now I have to switch to English, to join global summits, because global summits, and I asked everybody, doctors, because if I get my fingers right, yeah, on this part of the screen, the theme of global summits is doctors uniting. And that's what we're trying to do today, is to bring commonality, because as professional doctors from all different fields, we need and are coming together in this hexalateral commission and this presentations like these to offer unique perspectives on how to work together. Like, how many of you have been trying to work together in small groups, or even individuals, or felt in this past couple of years isolated because of the world circumstances? I know certainly I have. And then what I also invite doctors from around the world, and especially our French-speaking chiropraticiens, les praticiens, and all the different doctors from around the world to join in. I know it's not necessarily truly bilingual or trilingual at this point in time, but this movement can become more localized, where you find support. And you can find support with nominating and becoming connected with global summits with that QR code for top100doc.com. So check that out to nominate a colleague, an esteemed colleague, or perhaps nominate yourself for this 2023 year coming up for top docs. If you yourself are an esteemed practitioner of various types, check out that website. So there's my little pitch for that. Now, to address your question, Dr. Krastev, as Dr. Sena well knows, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about that, because he runs a very high-level organization called Breakthrough Coaching. And one of the things I was going to answer is that, what would you say, what are the most important practice survival things to do? Dr. Morris, Dr. Trong, Dr. Mbaris has already addressed some of those. Addressing online presence, addressing the quality of your branding, and addressing the quality of service, Dr. Trong. Those are all important elements, and you cannot separate one, and I wouldn't say any particular one is more important. What I want to focus on is a couple key strategies that you can start using tomorrow morning, Monday morning, throughout this week and the next month, to overcome some of the uncertainties in practice. And the number one thing is to get your systems down. The earliest thing I learned in practice was to have procedures and policies and an evolving manual that works, and communicate with that with all of your staff. So we have an evolving manual, and it's shared with new, especially with new staff, because we cannot assume that people can read your mind. Now, a bit about myself is not only 35 years in practice, I have become known as the spine doctor. And that was a conscious shift of my practice to become more of a spine expert than a general practitioner in chiropractic. Also, I run practice. I'm the host of Practice Mastery Podcast, which I invite you all viewers to have a listen to colleagues of various different professions and myself with solo interviews, sharing some of these important things about how to master your practice. So the key answer that I'm leading to is that there's no one set answer. There's no one set most important area. I would say that all of these are important, but my focus is to suggest that continual learning, evolution of your practice in policies and procedures, and consistently offer that level of service will get you far, whether you're a new practitioner or a very established practitioner. What I found, and I'm gonna call on Dr. Sana to chime in on that and share his experience with many coaching clients from international, and then of course his team of coaches and their experience about what are some of the common strategies to overcome uncertainty. And I think we're hearing that it is consistent service, consistent branding, consistent responses. For example, even in your policy procedure manual, you should have how your social media people will address positive and negative reviews and in what time frame. Those are all policy procedures. And so that's what I would say in quick summary, how to establish that level of service, that anybody who comes to see you will have that. It's like, what do we do with this type of client? And that's how I branched out to become the spine doctor with, I mean, it wasn't necessarily easy, but it seemed more seamless when I had my team engage that by giving very clear expectations. Dr. Sana, would you chime in on a couple of those elements, please?
Well, yes, thank you all. And to my esteemed colleagues, thank you all for giving up part of your Sunday to share your knowledge and wisdom and enthusiasm and passion. It's such a joy and a pleasure to be a part of this group. It's an honor. And so thank you, Dr. Kresta, for having me here today. Ellen, you mentioned a few things that are important to consistently do there. And I'm going to add one to that list, and it's consistent learning, continuous learning, continuously being curious about your profession, and in particular, the science and the advances in the profession. We have multiple professions here represented, and it's astounding at how quickly the science of what we do as physicians is advancing, the technology that's advancing. And to me, Alan, I think the greatest way to have certainty is to be able to sit, as Dr. Pavel said, right with your patient, one-to-one, human being to human being, and to give them your very, very best recommendations. And those aren't recommendations that are something you make up or have a crystal ball. Those recommendations come from your continuous learning, your continuous ability to apply the science behind what you do to your clinical practice. And that's sometimes a quantum leap for young practitioners coming out, because we learn a lot of science in school, but we don't necessarily learn the clinical application of it. And I had the good fortune yesterday of speaking in Dallas, Texas, for the Texas Chiropractic Association. And my topic was the posture longevity connection. And there is a huge body of evidence growing connecting poor posture, in particular anterior translation of the head, forward carriage of the head, with cardiovascular and pulmonary disease, dysfunction. And so when we look at somebody from a chiropractic perspective, it's not enough to be thinking just about degeneration of the spinal joints, but to think of overall health and wellness when we're making our recommendations to the patients. And I think, Dr. Trong, when you come from that place, whether somebody has insurance or doesn't have insurance, they're willing to pay their hard-earned discretionary dollars for your expertise and your wisdom. And I'm I think that Alan, I think if I were to pick one thing, it's keep on learning.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing with, and Dr. Mark Santa speaks really all over the world, and he has clients all over the world. So that is great advice for us. The last question I wanted to answer for you, Dr. Pavel, was where do you see healthcare going if it's led by doctors versus third parties? Well, clearly the movement of Doctors Uniting global summits is to take charge of what we can take charge. And one key message is not to build your practice upon the dependency for third-party providers. And it's a bold and it can be a gradual step, but to be a cash practice or use platforms that minimize the direct interaction with third parties is a challenge, but I think it's a necessary shift that we must make. And doctors, we need to engage our colleagues and get us our movement moving forward for that move. I'm not saying it's simple, but there's points where we need to get in with our associations to say, no, we can't be going the direction that they want us to go. And it starts with each individual practice and the practices that we run to, again, set our policies and procedures so that we can start to shift. Can it hurt? Well, I think that's where if you get coaching and mentoring to make that shift. Like the unique thing in Canada is that for chiropractic, it's mostly cash, whereas the US model is not so much so. And even around the world, many places around the world, chiropractic is a cash practice because literally third-party insurance doesn't cover much chiropractic, if at all, especially in a lot of countries outside Canada and the US. Most people do not know that. And that's why I struggle when I say that chiropractors do struggle in a sense of being probably the most poorly understood mainstream profession in Canada and North America. But that aside, that is another topic. I hope you as listeners have learned a little bit so far. There's more to come. Dr. Robert Pick has amazing things with Purple Cow to share, I'm sure. But Dr. Pavel, the last thing I wanted to say is that, of course, Global Summits is sponsoring a Doctor of Healthcare business program, which I am on faculty. A couple others of us, I think most of us here are actually on faculty with that program. So again, if you go to Global Summits, you can learn more about that Doctor of Healthcare business, which is a 2-year online, totally self-sufficient learning. And you can find out more about it. My course is going to be on business essentials, talking about much more in depth about how to get your business going or rebranding and rebuilding your practice, because essentially I've had to do that several times in my career. So over to you, Dr. Krastev. Thank you for the opportunity with sharing with our audience today.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Dr. Allen. You sort of engaged Dr. Sana, so I'm going to just ask him a couple of other individual questions that perhaps he'll clarify to us.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Sana, once again, welcome and great to see you, my dear friend. So I'd like you to tell our colleagues, because we spoke about this backstage, what does it mean to practice from the bottom up and not from the top down?
Thank you for that question. And Alan, again, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this organization. And I recommend, as you did, that everybody get the right finger. There's your QR code. Make sure that everybody gets connected, because being connected is what it's all about. Collaborating, sharing information, sharing knowledge is the way to success. And so, Dr. Krastev, when I say bottom up instead of top down management of your practice, I think it's the antiquated way of running the practices. You're the doctor, you must be the smartest person in the room, and so you've got all the answers and the ideas. And certainly, I think if anyone is in practice today, they understand the importance and the value of having a great team around them. Now more than ever, it's difficult to find great staff. It's difficult to keep and motivate a great staff. I'm going to bet that everyone on this Zoom right now would have the ability to hire somebody in their practice if they could find somebody. They're just not so easy to find. So it's more important than ever to acknowledge the ideas. I say bubble up, sort of like think of the bubbles in a glass of champagne coming up to the top, right? The best ideas come from the bottom up. You can't be everywhere in all places, but your staff, your team is going to be hearing things from patients, getting feedback from patients, whether it's online or on the phone. And you're going to get some great information about how to improve your practice and how to do things better. People don't stay in their job, not for the long term, just for the money. They stay there because of acknowledgement. They stay there because they see it as an opportunity to grow as human beings. And if you stifle that creative energy, that creative input that surrounds you, comes from your team, you're going to be stifling the growth of your practice from the inside out. And so it's time to put the ego aside a little bit for us and have two ears and one mouth, the way God designed us, and listen to what our team has to say rather than telling them all the time what needs to be done.
Thank you so much. That's I'm glad you clarified it, because you discussed this with me briefly, and I wanted to hear more about it. And my next question I'm going to hit you up with is the following. You mentioned that we should dedicate private time in order to focus on practice building. And when I say private time, I mean specific time where the team or the office staff or whoever's included in that team should actually make this time and sit down and analyze things. So can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. Was it Michael Gerber who said, don't be so busy working in your business that you don't have time to work on your business? It's tough when you're in the healthcare business because you are both the means of production as well as the person who has to make the lights stay on, right? Make sure that everything keeps going. And so from the perspective of running a successful practice, Dr. Chong mentioned the importance of SOPs, standard operating procedures, but those procedures can't be written down and then put on a shelf or kept in a digital folder somewhere. They have to be practiced, rehearsed, drilled, right? We need to learn our dialogues so that when a patient calls to cancel at the front desk, it's not the first time we've confronted that particular situation. Or when a person has a payment challenge, again, it's not the first time we've dealt with that particular situation. I like to say, you know, the teams in the Super Bowl, I don't know how long a Super Bowl game lasts. It's a few hours, but I got to tell you, they spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours in practice on the practice field before they ever step into a championship game. So you can't practice your skills while the game's being played, right? When you're in go time, when things are happening, that's the time that we're focusing on the patients, that we're delivering great service. We're not talking about sharpening our sword, right? So I recommend that doctors set aside a minimum of 10%. So think of your patient care hours. Typically, that's around 36 hours for the average doc in a week. So to set aside 10% of those hours, 3.5 hours, give me a morning a week where you're working on your practice, where you're training with your team, where you're practicing dialogues and skills, where you're learning and studying or growing the practice, right? It's you can't build that practice by staying stuck within the four walls of that practice. Talk about external marketing. You got to get out there. You got to meet people. You've got to engage with folks, right? That's so important. So I like to say, set aside practice building time and you'll build your practice.
Wonderful. And the last thing that we came up in our discussion that I really found very interesting and it has to do with planning, and I think planning is everything. But you mentioned that practice, you should have a financial plan in practice. And I think that's very important, again, to clarify to some of us, including myself, because I was never a good businessman. And luckily, in my private practice, after I married my wife, she took over all the management of the practice. And I tell you, it's night and day. And I'm very fortunate that I have my wife who gives 150% of herself into doing just about everything. I mean, if I can teach you how to fix teeth, I'll teach you that too. But that's just a joke. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Well, Pavel, it's not unusual, the situation you described. In fact, most physicians practice that way. And unfortunately, you get to be our age and you're getting close and you're kind of looking for the finish line. And you're like, oh man, I shoulda, woulda, coulda have prepared for this. So I do recommend, as Dr. Chong mentioned, having mentors, not only for your practice, but also for your financial life. So you really need to have a good financial team surrounding you. I mean, a great accountant, not somebody who just crunches the numbers and you get to the end of the tax season and you've got to file your tax. I mean, somebody who's really helping you navigate the finances of your practice. Have a financial planner. I like to say work backwards. We all should have a number. And what I mean by that number is what's the number that you need to have set aside that is going to throw off enough income for you to be able to maintain the lifestyle or approximate that lifestyle that you and your wife have become accustomed to. And there are certain ways that you can do that. If you're listening and you're young, time is on your side, right? Compounding interest is your friend, right? So start early, even putting a little bit away each and every month. I love that 10%, right? Put that 10% away, get it taken right out of your paycheck so you never even have seen it. You don't even get to touch it. It goes into some place that's a retirement account for you to have later on. And you'll see the beauty of compounding interest, but work backwards, right? Don't get to that last 3 years of practice and then I'm scrambling and then what am I going to do now? The longer of a lead time you have, the better it's going to be. So they say plan to fail or fail to, what is it? Fail to plan or plan to fail, right? So having a great plan, a financial plan in place for your practice is an absolutely essential thing.
Dr. Sana, I think it's super duper valuable what you're sharing with us. And I wanna just make the last comment regarding mentoring. Sometimes, and it's happened to me, and it's still happening to me, and this is what I want to drive across probably for the third time I'm repeating it. I would encourage the younger colleagues to do a lot of planning when they're young and a lot of training. Go, learn, do. As the years go, your speed, your accuracy will get better and better and better. I promise you. If you don't enjoy doing something, ask yourself why I don't enjoy doing it. Can I do something to start enjoying doing it? And if the answer is no, don't do it. But if you feel like you really have a passion to do something, but maybe you need to touch up on your skills a bit and learn some little secrets. See, a lot of us older guys, we have little secrets. They're not big secrets. You know, the big things, the forest is the same, but there's little paths in the forest that sometimes will make your life a lot easier and a lot better. So Dr. Sana, thank you. Big pleasure to have you, and great to be associated with you. And now we turn to our dear friend, Dr. Robert Pick, who is a personal friend, just like the rest of the commissioners, as well as a fantastic colleague. And me and Dr. Pick, we share many values. And I always learn new things from him. And when Dr. Pick is here, it's always a purple cow, wow type of day. So where is it, Bob? Come on, Frank. That's it. I wanted to see it. So, Dr. Pick, before we I make a few comments here that I jotted yesterday. So, Dr. Pick will be talking about ethics and communication. Now, the way Pavel, the way I understand this thing is, I see things as, and I mentioned this in the beginning, self-ethics and professional ethics. So the self-ethics are the way you handle yourself, your life. And I said it, I think I said it in the green room, or perhaps in the beginning. You can always go confess to your priest, to your rabbi, anybody who you want to talk to about your personal ethical problems. That's great. But your professional ethical problems can take your practice in one direction or another. And hopefully you want to be taken in a positive direction, not in a negative direction. So an example, and this example, I think Dr. Pick will touch on. When we do procedures, when we do dentistry or whatever field you practice, there's a little ethical card attached to how you treat the patient, to why you're doing a particular procedure. And if you cannot do a particular procedure, should you refer the patient out to someone that will do the procedure for you and return the patient to you for further treatment? Or the other option is you can train yourself by attending courses and by having mentors that you become an expert in this procedure. So now you can add it onto your arsenal of tools that you have at your disposal in your practice. So these are very important things. And I'll give a little example. Let's say a dentist, I mean, this happens, I think, in most of our offices, but let's say that a patient comes in and they're a young patient in their 20s, and you see a 3-unit bridge in their mouth. You look at their jaw, you examine them, and you see that they have really abundant available bone. And then my first question always is, well, how long ago was this bridge done? Even if it's beautifully done, I like to know the history of what this patient is about. I like to understand where they come from. So very often the patient will say, well, this bridge was done a year ago. And my next question always is, well, I shouldn't say always, in some cases, is, well, why didn't they consider an implant? Well, he says, my current dentist or previous dentist wasn't really doing implants, so he didn't even offer it to me. So that's a pitfall that carries potential legal liability. So if you don't do implants and you have the opportunity to do an implant for a patient and you think that's probably the best treatment, discuss it with the patient. Use a colleague, use a periodontist, use an oral surgeon, you use a general practitioner who does implants, do whatever you want to do, but do the right thing for the patient, not based on what you can do, but based on what the current standards are. So I think I get my point across. And the bottom line is, we want you guys, and again, I speak to the younger ones, that we want you to have better practices, better lives, more fruitful lives than we have. And the most important thing is not to make the same mistakes that we've made. Because sometimes with all these years of additive experience that we have here on this stage, why wait 20 years to learn something little new? You know, when you can learn it so early in your career, and then it'll stick with you for the rest of your career. So, Dr. Pick, I can talk about this extensively, but I'm turning it over to you because I know you have some good things to say.
Thank you for the intro. And as Dr. Sana was talking, I was like, yes, 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 yes. As everybody was talking, I'm like, yes, Alan, yes, 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 yes. And if I have the honor to be on the Hex Commission again, I'm going to do something I didn't plan to do for this, but thank God I wasn't the first speaker. So much super coolly awesome technology today. Right away, I started just editing a few PowerPoint slides that I decided I'm going to use because they're you. I also want to mention anything that I talk about that is financially related. I am not a financial advisor. It is for valuetainment. But I'm going to start off by saying, man, at 67 and a half, I wish I knew what I knew now when I was 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I was lecturing not too long ago at a ballroom at a meeting. And just out of curiosity, I said, how many baby boomers in the room? Of course, I raised my hand. It's about a third boomers, third Gen Xers, and a third millennials. And I said, this is going to be interesting. And I said, of all the boomers out here, how many of you did your parents sit down and show you how to invest, what compounded interest is? 2 hands went up in a room of 550. 2 hands. The next generation, Gen Xers, it was about 20. Millennials, it was interesting. It was almost all their hands. And what's interesting is the millennials are a product of baby boomers for the most part. Please listen to everything we're saying, and especially young people. Start investing right now. I got such a late start. It is cuckoo. And I'm an administrator for a Facebook group called Stock Investment for Dentists that my buddy Nathan Ho started. And I talk about all the time when I get interviewed, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I've done really okay. We have things today that we never had before. We got YouTube, we got Google, we can get information. And if you know who you're getting that information from, you can kick some butt. And, when I look at compounded interest, and Dr. Sana, boy, you said it best. When I look at what I'm going to be missing by not starting early, putting $20 away, I want to shoot myself. It was not a purple cow wow in any way, shape, or form. There was a time I lived above my means. That hurts to admit. I'm a doc, I'm a specialist, I'm cool, so I got to have a, $20 million home. I got rid of that right away, thank God, right before the crash. Started living below my means, put my brain to work. And I'm going to tell a quick story. I know we don't have time here, but it's a great story. And I always want others to learn from my mistakes. About as some of you know, 1998, I got hit with a curveball, was diagnosed with cancer in my appendix, extremely rare, was given less than 6 months to live, and signed off on 47 side effects. Two of my buddies at Northwestern, where I'm still on staff, saved my butt. I went through 14 months of experimental chemo, radiation, never done on a human before. That's a whole other story. And two of the 47 side effects got me about 6 years ago. As Nathan Ho always said, I got a hearing aid the size of West Texas. Never thought I'd have a cochlear implant. From the radiation damage at L5S1, I walk with a little bit of a limp, but can't slow me down. But when all that happened, I decided to buy out my practice partner. Great guy, great everything, just wasn't meant to be. And the banker says to me, Dr. Pitt, can I be honest with you? And I'm like, Gene, of course you can. You've been my banker since dental school. She goes, are you sure? I'm like, yes. She goes, well, I'm worried about you at the rate you're going. This was age 43. You're going to be retiring at the age of about 168. And I said, excuse me? And she explained it all to me. I still didn't get going, but I eventually kicked it in. And man, so many great people out there to learn from. Stock investing, real estate. Oh my God. Right now, people, again, this is for valuetainment. The market is in what's called a bear market. This is one of the greatest times ever for wealth transfer from one generation to the other. People paying attention now can make millions of dollars. Again, I don't have time for this, but there's apps such as Robinhood where you can buy fractional shares. If you can't afford to buy $720 of Tesla, you could only buy $50 if that's all you can afford. There's things that happen. Amazon did a 20-for-1 stock split last week. And that means if you had one share, you now got 20 shares. The price goes down. It was at like 3,000. So you divide it by 20, whatever that is, 160. So now it's 160 a share. But I now got 20 times the shares I had. And as it goes back up, which it will, I made 20 times my money. Tesla did a 5-for-1 stock split 2 years ago. it's going to do a 3-for-1 very soon. So if it's worth $1,000, you got one share, got 3 shares worth what? 1,000 divided by 3, worth 333. But trust me, Kathy Wood and others. Kathy Wood's a huge investor, multi-billionaire. Tesla will be a $3,000 to $4,000 stock 4 to 5 years from now. It's the fastest way to ever make money and make up. It's my way to make up for all the stupid mistakes that I've made. So I just went off on a rant that I didn't expect to go off on, but I never want anybody to make the dumb mistakes that I make. And on the Purple Cow Wow Mastermind I'm running, I was only with the 3-hour sessions once a Friday for you. I thought I was going to talk like 20 minutes on it. You got to do some investing. Turned out to be two full 3-hour lectures of me just talking. Everybody was like, and I brought in one of my friends who runs an awesome Facebook group. I don't want to promote anything. It's called Whiteboard Finance. My buddy Marco runs it. What an amazing site. I'm going to be interviewing him. So many, Stock Mode, Chris Fain. These people know what they're doing. So please start now. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50. You start putting $20 away when you're 20 years old. You'll have over $1 million when you're 62. You can't make up for compounded interest. If you look at Warren Buffett, he did okay, but his wealth curve was like this and like this. All of a sudden, about 30 years into his investments, boom, everything doubled and then quadrupled and 8 times. Became a billionaire in about 5 weeks with what's going on. So again, I didn't mean to go off on a rant, but this is so important for anybody in healthcare today. We work hard. I don't care if you're in optometry, chiropractic, ophthalmology, medicine, dentistry, pharmacy. We bust our butts. And as an example in dentistry, we work in something the size of a baseball. And yes, we wear loupes to magnify, but if Powell and I are off on something by 1/16 of a millimeter, the patient comes back, that doesn't feel right. I teach my buddies at Northwestern where I'm on staff. So proud to be on staff. Purple was meant to be my color. I have no idea where they found that picture. But I say to my general surgery colleagues, you walk in, open it up, show the residents what's going on, pull out some gallstones, tell the chief resident, you close, 20 minutes. Patient doesn't come back and go, can you adjust my scar by 1/16 of a millimeter? Doesn't happen. But I don't care what profession we're in. People don't realize the stress that Dr. Morris goes through, Zimber, Asana, Chong, Twang, Pavel. We go through stress that's unreal. There's times I want to come home and say to my better half, Carmen, she's a hospice nurse. I couldn't do what she does. And I'm like, all right, give me just 10 minutes to jam on my guitar and let me debrief. All right, so now that I'm done with my rant, I want to do a couple things. And I'm going to do a screen share. And this is my homework assignment for the weekend. But hopefully you can all see my slides. And can you all see my slides okay? All right, awesomely groovy. The Hex Commission. This is so super coolio awesome. One of the words I'm known for. If you ever told me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, I'd be on something called the Hex Commission, I'd be like, oh, what? But how cool is this? How cool is this? That we can get together and begin to do things to protect our professions, which is huge. And when I see all of us out here, it makes my heart feel good that we know what we're doing, we're honest, we're ethical. We always want to do, if you've listened to it, and if you're just coming on, people, please go back and listen to everybody before me and after me. What we're talking about is spot on, okay? So something that's important, I was told, 2-second introduction, I'm Bob Pick. I'm a practicing clinician, okay? Yes, I'm also a coach. When I first got started, I was a consultant. But I'm in the trenches. just like everybody else out here. I'm not talking from 20 years ago doing something. I'm talking from doing it every day. Okay. It's huge. And oh my God, when Sana was talking, was going to quickly try to get another couple of pictures, couldn't do it fast enough. Team is huge, just huge. This is my 5-star Purple Cow wow team. And that's a whole other 5-hour lecture of how you get a team. Yes, we got a really unusual time in history right now, but you can get them. You got to get the right team. Dentists, physicians, we all hire too fast and fire too slow. I'd rather work by myself, assisting with my feet, than work with a bad person, period. But when you get a team, look at the smiles. You just don't get those smiles because somebody says smile. You got to know how to treat your team. You got to have the right personality for the right position, and people stay with you. Look, Sonia, who's here on the right here, is going to be with me 31 years this August. Diana, my office manager, second office manager I've ever had. The first one retired about 20 years ago. I'm like, you can't retire. Diana's been with me that whole time. Ghosh has been with me 20 years. Vanessa, 20 years. Annie, a lot of years. And it goes on and on. Kristen, who we always celebrate anniversaries when they come up. I think it's 14 years. She's a position that everybody's got to have today. PRC, SMC, your public relations coordinator, social media coordinator. I don't have time during the day to post all the things I have to. She does it. I don't care if you're a generalist, specialist. You got to have somebody that goes out there and bangs on doors and promotes you. There are so many opportunities today that we miss. General dentists, find out video people engages 1,200 times greater than text. Send a video to your endodontist that you use more than anybody else. Hi, Dr. Endo, it's Dr. Drill and Fill. I just wanted to send you a quick video, or do it on FaceTime, whatever you want to do. But I want to let you know, I love our working relationship. If you ever get a patient that doesn't have a dentist, I want to be it. That's going to sit in that person's head. We know today there is a huge mouth-body connection. A bug called P. gingivalis is found in active gum disease at all levels. We know today it's responsible for Alzheimer's, and this is coming from scientific studies. We know it changes the cardiac issue, diabetic issue, type 2, and goes from there. My buddy Ed Zuckerberg is one of the huge people that speaks on it. He's involved with Keystone Bio, a company trying to get a vaccine to prevent P. gingivalis. This stuff is huge today. So Kristen went to every cardiologist around me, and we started with the Northwestern system. So they can look me up. Most of them know me. We're going to get into the word relationship in a second. I'm on a rant. All right. Let's talk about what Purple Cow Wow is. And I think it's important today. And, as a coach, I'll sometimes go to different websites or places I'm going to go. Everybody says the same thing. We all went to the best schools. We all graduated at the top of our class. We all do Invisalign, same day crowns, CIRAC, this and that, intraoral hemorrhoidectomies. But what do you do different than anybody else? It's huge. So you got to become the Purple Cow. It's the last thing I ever thought I would be known as, ever. What most people don't know, in late 1983, I was 2 months out of my residency. I literally pioneered lasers in dentistry and dental surgery. I was the first person ever in the world to use it, do it, publish it, co-wrote the first textbook. It's in like 27 languages. But I left lasers in 1998 for a word that bonds Pavel and I, ethics. Ethics. We're going to get into that in a minute. I never thought I would end up in management. Two of my really good management friends, Roger Levin, Linda Miles, about 24 years ago at a meeting at dinner, you're going to end up in management. What are you guys, cuckoo? But In today's world, peeps, you got to have unprecedented practice action for unprecedented times. We are living through one of the most unusual times in our human history. It's crazy. I've never witnessed anything like it. I never thought I would be part of a time in history where people will look back and go, you know, there was in America here, there was a Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, and the COVID crisis. I'd love to go 200 years out to see what they got to say. It's just crazy. So whether you're doing something virtual, whether you do it in person, got to have energy and ethics, ethics. And we're going to come to that in a minute. Man, Dr. Sana, I'm like, is he reading my slides? And remember, people listening, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity, by some dude by the name of Al Einstein. Remember, we're living through a wacko time right now. This is your time to kick some butt. And I added this about 5 seconds before I came on. I'm like, oh my God, I got to find it really quick, because you just said it. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, by Ben Franklin, some other dude. And in a second, we're going to talk about where you plan. And man, Dr. Santa had it right in the money. First off, if you don't have it, go buy the book, Seth Godin's Purple Cow. Maybe 12 years ago, it was a New York Times bestseller. I hope everybody has a sense of humor. I joke when I lecture. It's a little book. You can finish it in number two bathroom breaks. And so it's Purple Cow. If you were driving up, I don't know if anybody's ever been in Wisconsin, USA, there's farms everywhere. Everything looks alike. They're all black and white Holstein cows. But all of a sudden, if you saw a real purple cow, like in the picture, was in shape, you'd slam on your brakes, you'd take pictures, you'd run video, there'd be a traffic jam, okay? So the purple cow, it's the key to success is to find a way to stand out. And this applies to any business. I don't care if you're in the landscaping business. I don't care if you're in the restaurant business. Doesn't matter. Most businesses are all the same. But you want to be the purple cow in a field of monochrome Holsteins. You got to make your practice remarkable. And the purple cow is something worth talking about. Okay. It's how you get 5-star Google reviews without trying. It's worth noticing. It's exceptional. It's new. Okay. It's purple. And I'm purple, they're not. And if you got ethics with it, man, you are going to crank it. If Purple Cow is interesting, so always think from now on going forward, Purple Cow, wow. Usual stuff is boring and routine. It's a typical black and white cow. We all went to the best dental schools. We all did this, we all do that. What do you do different? Okay. So you must develop your Purple Cow wows in every aspect of your practice. No, dental business, pharmacy business, chiropractic business, ophthalmology, optometry business. Talking too fast. And I'm going to talk about where you do this in a second. You couldn't tell I'm not passionate with this stuff. Bob, this is you and me, baby. All of us out here. Everything that you do, I'm not perfect, I'm human. I've made more clinical mistakes, judgment mistakes, than Carter's has pills. But I like setting the curve. I like learning. And I like being on top. The day that I stopped reading referee journals, International Journal of Perio Restorative is right there. The day that I stopped doing that is the day you're at my funeral. I'm done, or I slow down. You always want to be on the top. So if we open the curtains on this, okay, and you get weird stuff today. This was a December issue, so 5 months ago, of a publication called Inside Dentistry, making sense of unusual times. I never thought I would ever see anything this cuckoo. But one of my quotes is, I want everybody to remember this: image coupled with our strong performance is unstoppable. Think about that. And when I lecture right behind, who do I think of? I don't care where you're from, everybody knows Michael. Everybody. And I hate when they Photoshop him when I'm doing this, but that's okay. So MJ, quick story. For a long time, I spent a day at our faculty practice at Northwestern. I've always been in private practice. Dean one day said, go to the private practice. Long story short, we were at the entire 35th floor of this hotel, 3 blocks from Northwestern. Michael had his corporate offices on 29. So one night I had come back to the office to do some stuff. Doorman says, hey man, there's somebody in your convertible. Like, you're kidding me. So I come out, Michael's sitting in my 56 Corvette. And I knew him from the elevator. And I said, hey dude, if you can't afford to sit what you're sitting in, if you break it, you shouldn't be in there. Burst out laughing. I looked around, 11 o'clock at night, everybody with their phones, taking pictures, stop, dead in their tracks. Purple cow. But we were talking and I said, you know, this one guy's complaining. We're going back like, I don't know how many years now. I go, you can never get endorsements. You can never do this. Michael looks around to make sure nobody can hear us. And he goes, the answer is easy. He goes, whenever I'm on TV, I'm overdressed for the occasion. Image. And when I came up that quote, I thought of Mike. And the nicest guy on planet Earth, Tony Robbins. What an image. And, you know, for those of you that are watching, put your hands up like this. And come on, the rest of you, put your hands up. Come on. There we go. All right. Put your hands down. That's how you take a picture like that in case you want to get a picture. But Tony's got a great image. He's also like 6'8". And the taller you are, you got sort of, almost looks like he's got acromegaly. But one of his awesome quotes, man, that every one of my team members knows. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. Huge. Every one of my team members knows this from Steve Martin. Be so good they can't ignore you. Think about that. Okay. Our Chicago Dental Society review last year, uneasy feeling, civic unrest, cuckoo. So when I lecture, pick, and again, everybody talked about this, pick group secret number 1, mentors. You need mentors. There's no reason to recreate genius or, you know, I've had mentors from day one. It's one of the luckiest things that ever happened to me. I didn't listen as often as I should, but mentors were you. And I still have mentors. Michael Jordan had a coach. People don't think about that. And except for poor Pete Dawson, who passed away last year, my mentors are still with me, which is so cool. And Dave Garber over here, he's about maybe 12 years older than me. And I was speaking about 1985 at a meeting in Atlanta. And I see him off to the side. Gordon Christensen's behind him. Ronnie Goldstein's behind him. I'm like, oh, no. You know, he's 12 years older than me, so he was antique. And in his great South African accent, he goes, boy, we'd like to take you to dinner because we can teach you some things. I'm like, oh, God. I said, yes. Long story short, I learned PowerPoint for PowerPoint. He goes, whenever you lecture now on, 3 projectors, 3 screens, video in the middle. You're going to have before and after come up. You turn a black, dark slide in the middle, video will play. They taught me so much. If I only would have listened to Pete about investing. Oh, my God. But mentors are huge, huge, huge. And remember this quote, people. Write it down. You are the sum or the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you spend every weekend with 5 cherry pickers, you're going to know how to pick cherries better than anybody else. My 5 change all the time, depending what I need. And almost done, but this is so important. Number 3 is so important. There's 127 top secrets, but there's 4 basics of a successful practice. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's chiropractic, medicine, doesn't matter. Optometry, pharmacy. You got to have excellent skill. You got to have effective business systems. You got to have your clinical hat on first, but if your business acumen is not on par with your clinical skill, as we say in Chicago's, you ain't gonna succeed to the levels you want. And I also get Harvard Business Review. This just came, the Fortune 500. Holy moly. You got to have a great team and great team environment, but I'm going to focus on this for a few seconds. You got to have relationship and communication. Relationship building, people, is huge, 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 huge. It's the key to your success. It's a must-have with your patients, must-have with your team. If there's specialists out here, it's a must-have with your referring dentists. It's all about relationships. This is something Pete Dawson taught me starting about 1986. Pick, if you don't do a preclinical interview, I'm going to you. And Pete had this image of being very nice and very stern. And boy, when he knew you, all the bad words came out. One of the things, pay attention to this, people, the preclinical interview. This is the number one thing Pete taught me that I still use to this day. I talk about this in the mastermind. Nobody does it. It's how you meet the patient. And this isn't meant to offend anybody. It's meant to help with ethics. And Dr. Stein, I think, just talked about it in a way. Most dentists meet the patient. Either the hygienist does a cleaning first. Dentist walks in. Hi, I'm Dr. Drillenfill. You need 2 fillings in this. Let's go. Or it's an exam. The bib is on. It's in a dental chair. When I went to the faculty practice, I made them make a room for me. This is in my own private office. It's called the Preclinical Interview Educational Conference Room. Every new patient is brought here before they go to the exam room. This is Sonia, whether it's Sonia, Gosha, Nina, all 3 of my assistants will tell me, oh my God, the patient's a big analytical. You're going to be there for 9 hours. So if they're analytical, I'm going to make sure my reading glasses are on. I'm going to be more serious. And we're going to give you 47 articles relative to this. And when we place the implant, it's going to be a 35 Newton centimeter lock, and it's going to be 1.879 microns against all the body cells. That's how you handle it. And, you know, if I got Donald Trump sitting there, hope they made everybody laugh. All right, you know what? We can't waste time. Just tell me what you want. Let's get right to the room. Okay, let's go. Talk in that person's language. There's got frame some stuff, stick it in there. This computer has 4,000 slides of different cases, things I can show patients. And I say to them, why are you here? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to get? Rate your smile. What's important to you? You ever had a bad experience? It can take 5 minutes. If I got a driver, keeps looking at the watch, you're 4 minutes late getting in here, dude. Or if I got an analytical, if I have somebody that's more amiable, I'm going to be a little bit more soft. You know, somebody that's expressive. You know, hey, man, this is going to make you look awesome. So it's all knowing what you do. That preclinical interview is huge. You should have 100% case acceptance rate with that. Where do you do all of this? I'm almost done with my rant. The PBR, Pick Business Team Building Retreat. I've done it since 1998. When I bought my partner out, I realized I knew nothing about running a business. I hired a coach. I was at some Fortune 500 companies with lasers. And I said, you know what, they're doing something, I'm going to do it too. And I know it worked. It's the second most read article now that I published on Dentistry Today. I'm in a book with Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books on this. It's called the Pick Business Team Building a Retreat. It's done away from the office. After this second year, they became a biannual 2-day retreat. The first one, probably all you need is a day, but it's where you figure out stuff that every Fortune 500 company has figured out. It's an all-day event. And here's one of my own with my team. And you got to do it outside the office. You can't be in the office. You can't get phone calls. Oh, you know what? That patient's calling. Let me schedule him. It's a must, out of the office. And you pretend you're a Fortune 500 company. Who doesn't want to be a Fortune 500 company? I do. Okay. And you want to be one of the Fortune 100 dental companies, pharmacy companies, chiropractic companies, ophthalmic companies to work for. You want your team to love you. Okay. And whenever I do a PBR for my own team, when I coach others, those pictures are in the binder they all get. It has articles, scientific articles. But at that PBR, people, you got to develop your mission, vision, culture statement. Most businesses don't have it. If your team doesn't know your mission, your vision, and the culture code, they can't do what you want to do. You got to do your why. A SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threats. A STEW, satisfy the patient, team, extra mile, wow factor. Motivational videos, motivational games. Oh my God, so much fun. You have no idea. Though this stuff is huge. I don't want to spend too long, but you get the idea. Whenever I see magazines with cool covers, I grab it. You gotta breathe creativity. You gotta breathe it every moment, every day, every time you walk in that door. And someone else said this, remember, you can't be everything to everyone. You can't. You gotta figure out what you do better than anybody else. What's your purple cow? When I do coach others in my own team, when we do a PBR, there's a purple cow wow exercise. What are our purple cows that we do? What aren't we doing that we should be doing? All right, I want to finish with this. I looked at a case that Pavel had my jaw dislocated. He said it better than I could say it. It's not meant to offend anybody. There's things that happen in any profession. But for those who don't know what it is, this is sort of a picture, a graphic of a dental implant. It fits in to replace a tooth. Its big advantages, you don't have to cut the tooth down on either side. You can floss between it. It preserves bone. If there's a tooth missing with time, you lose bone. Its success rate is off the charts. You know, somebody has an artificial hip or a knee. Every 12 to 15 years, it has to be replaced. Yes, can implants fail? You bet. But they got 98% success rates, 97 in the upper jaw. So what the implant, I get so excited. The implant, if you look at it, kind of comes up like this. It mimics a tooth surface area, and it blends into the cap underneath as opposed to the cap sits on. So it's got something we call emergence profile. Look at that implant, emergence profile. Okay. So this is what a regular implant looks like before Pavel and I put it in. This is called a mini. I'm on some magazine cover in my office. I don't even know when it was from. It was on implants. And I said, in my personal humble opinion, this is going back 15, 20 years ago. I said, I think the only use for a mini is when you can't do an immediate load on regular implants. You can put these in to act as a temporary lock, and then they come out when the regular implants are integrated in bone 3 to 6 months later. You can, on almost any of these, you can twist them right out. They don't integrate, and you can't get an emergence profile. You can't get it. I don't know where it comes from. I'm human, I'm perfect, but ethics has to precede every case that you do. And if you don't know what you're doing, you need to take courses. There's so many courses today. Oh my God, Pavel, I think would agree. The plethora of stuff is insane today. So he put this up. And again, he's not perfect. Well, Pavel's perfect, but I'm not perfect. And if you take a look, this is a mini implant in the front. Here's an emergence profile of the tooth next to it. It's got some issues, but the root emerges into the cap. Right here, it's a flat surface, flat. It doesn't emerge. You can't clean it. It's a food trap. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And, you know, there's some weekend course where you pay some bucks and all, these are cheap, boom, anybody can do it. And you can't learn this in a weekend. Here's another course, 2 of them, to hang on to a premolar. You can't get emergence profile. You can't. I put this on. This case was sent to me the other day. Dennis said, I don't know what to do. I almost didn't know what to tell the patient. I should have put the clinical picture up. I don't want to gross anybody out in the front. is a big draining fistula. You just push and pus almost squirts out. And I literally I like rotated the cap off, the middle one and back one, I literally unthreaded with my finger. I, of course, had the patient under an anesthetic. This one, I had to take an instrument and loosen it for a sec. There's no emergence profile. It's a trap disaster. This breaks my heart. Again, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm going to speak for Pavel. He and I would never do this. Never. You've got to know what you're doing in any profession. If you don't, please take the courses. It just is what it is. So finally, you got to have an awesome team. But in today's world, they got to have something called the HQ hospitality quotient. Besides their skill set, their brain should go, I want to make you feel special today. And when you make somebody feel special, knowing their personality profile, knowing everything that's there, you win. My new favorite quote by Abe Lincoln, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I love that. Wow. So I want everybody to think about that, and everything that you do should all be designed and funneled from the purple cow and I to the best patient experience ever. And that's basically the conclusion of what we do. So I know I went off on a rant, but this stuff is huge. This stuff is so important today. And again, if you're just coming on, please go back and listen to everybody before me and after me. The takeaways today are huge. Please listen to everybody. So excited, so honored and flattered to be here.
Bob, you know, it's truly an honor to have you, and the information you share with all of us in the audience is just fantastic. It's amazing. I mean, I take my hat off to you. It's fantastic stuff. Regarding that implant case I showed, to make things a little bit more challenging, the one I showed on the bottom, we also. The one on the top, by the way, is not a bicuspid. That's a lateral incisor. So, I mean, sticking two little screws to support a lateral incisor, you guys can imagine what these soft tissues look like. And unfortunately, I'll mention something that I have not mentioned regarding this case. This particular patient is a new patient in my office. I treat the rest of his family. He's in his very early 50s. And when he was a young child, they had just moved into a new house in my local community. And as a young kid, he got hit by a car. And this unfortunately left him with deficits that are for life. He's a super nice guy. He's a great patient to work on, but his life was certainly changed following this unfortunate and sad tragedy. So I will do what I can to do the right thing for this patient. And we're in the progress right now of doing a full scan, and I'll see what I can do. I'll keep you guys updated. But, you know, we're all human, as everyone I think will agree on this panel. We all make mistakes. The question becomes, how do we start making less mistakes with time and with experience? And as Bob said, it's all about education. It's about mentorship. It's about just loving what you do and just getting better and better at it. Bob mentioned so many things that I personally do exactly the same way he does. When I have a new patient, I sit down in my consult room before they see the dental chair, and I talk a lot. I spend an hour with a new patient at least, when necessary. I mean, it's not always necessary, but I routinely, I shouldn't say always, I routinely spent an exorbitant amount of time seeing what this human being came to me for, understanding their history, understanding that they're not just a tooth that hurts and we have to just take care of this and the rest is, you know, tunnel vision. It's a mouth, it's a human being we treat. And when we treat this human being with the proper respect and professional services, it comes back to build you as a human being and make you just a happier person. So, guys, I was planning to do a little roundtable discussion. but I think we ran a little bit over time. So I invite all of you in the same order that we started, if you guys don't mind, to say anything you'd like to say in closing. And once again, it's been just an honor to have all of you guys here take part of this beautiful meeting. And to our audience, we love you. We're here for you. To the young colleagues, please don't be afraid. Ask questions. Don't sit in your box and just work all day. We are, most of us are very reasonable human beings, down to earth, that are willing to work with just about anybody. So it's all about a purple cow wow career. And once again, thank you all. And I'll let you guys, Dr. Jerry Morris, if you would like to close us off.
Dr.
Everybody
Kostev,
apply
thank you so
yourselves.
much. I
Thank
want
you
to
so
thank
much
Dr.
for-
Kostev, Dr. Pick, Dr. Chong, Dr. Trong, Dr. Embarros, Dr. Sana, everyone. It was a great session, learned a lot myself. Hopefully I brought some value as well. We want to everyone watching to just rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and get engaged, whether you're just starting your career or you're approaching the finish line, so to speak. It's never too late to make pivots or to change things if something isn't working just the way you like. I think that was the theme for the majority of what was discussed today. It's been my pleasure to be here. I look forward to seeing a lot more of everyone as we progress and as we build up all our professions for the many, many years to come.
Thank you, Dr. Morris. Dr. Ora.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for being part of this amazing group. It's always so interesting to listen to my colleagues. Dr. Pick, if you didn't know the purple cow, it's actually a German Milka chocolate. And I grew up with that purple cow chocolate. And it so happens that in Germany, when kids were asked to draw cows, very many of them didn't really grow up on, on a farm. So all of them actually colored purple cows. And so great presentation. And the very first time I listened to that, it reminded me, it brought back memories from my childhood, related to Germany, related to Romania. So thank you so much. Great presentation, guys.
Pleasure to have you, Dr. Ora. Dr. Susan.
Thank you again. It was such a pleasure. And as I'm listening, I learned so much. And as Dr. Pick said, I want to learn until my last breath. And we may have spoken on different topics, but it boils down to this one thing. It is humans taking care of humans. And when we're taking care, as you said, you may work with this cavity here, but it's not. As I say in optometry, and as I advise and mentor newbies, is the patient is not a set of eyeballs sitting in my chair. You are a whole person, top to bottom, in, out. And we are humans speaking humans to one another and to our patients. So thank you so much. It's been so much fun today. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you, Dr. Trong, and thank you for your input. Now we turn to Dr. Alan Chung.
Well, if I was to say, and I'm in a business center right now, so there's music in the background. If I was to say and summarize for wherever you are at in your practice, practice as if every day answering the question of what is your legacy? What is your legacy? What legacy do you want to leave? And in my podcast, we talk about this practice mastery. I want to be known as a master of, not perfect, but doing the best I can for every single patient. And I think that kind of summarizes what the Hex Commission is always wanting to represent: excellence and mastery. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Chung, and again, appreciate much appreciate having you. Dr. Sana, your closing comments, please.
Well, thank you very much to all of you. And I'm a very big believer that the future of healthcare, the future of success in healthcare, is collaboration. And when we come together from our disciplines and we hear so much that resonates with each other, it goes to the point that we have more in common than we do that separates us. And so the very best way that I could think of spending this time is to hang out with a bunch of purple cows like you guys and gals. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sana. And finally, Dr. Fig.
And just again, honored to be here. What an awesome assembly of people. Great information. Like Dr. Morris, man, I learned stuff today, and that's huge. And again, the day we quit learning is the day we're done. Legacy, so many of those things are huge. Always flattered when someone mentions a purple cow, but with ethics first, be the purple cow with everything and all that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Pick, and fellow commissioners. What can I say? I think we really had a fantastic discussion, and it's lovely to get together and share knowledge and share those with our younger friends and colleagues and our patients. So I want to thank everyone, our audience especially, and once again, on behalf of Global Summits, Dr. Shah, myself, and our commissioners here, we thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have picked up a thing or two, and get in touch with us. Follow us, join Global Summits, and there's a lot to offer there. So the VGO man signs out, and just lastly, I'll say, love what you do and do it with a passion, and we love you all. Take care, guys.